Conversations with Pam and David. Hello there. How are you?
Hi.
Told you were coming.
Hi, everybody.
How's everything? Told you were coming. Just a matter of getting there. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. We are here once again. Let me slide up.
Okay, slide a little closer. Okay.
Slide that way just a little
A
bit.
little this way?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right. I think we got it together now.
Okay.
I think we have ourselves situated. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully everybody is doing well. And we're doing okay as well. Glad to be back with you. Another weekend here of Conversations with Pam and David. And as always, you know, there's a couple things maybe to talk about. A couple things possibly happening and around
Yes.
the house. So welcome, first of all, to all of those that are online with us. See some people come on early. We had some people like waiting.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They were,
yes.
like anticipating.
Someone asked me to make sure that I notified them so
we're
that
here,
they
right?
could be on. Yes. And I will let him know right now.
Tell them it's official.
Okay.
We're here. Want to remind everybody while she's doing that you can remind. See Eddie Hudson on. Hey, hey.
Okay, there he
Already
is. All
He
right.
was asking earlier, what time are you coming on?
Yes, there you are. Okay.
You can call us and be part of the conversation as well. The area code number here is area code 951-799-9032. You can join in and we will share in your thoughts and opinions of things that are going on. We'd be only too happy to hear from you. So feel free to contact us. And while we're talking tonight, just general conversation tonight. There's just a lot of things as usual that's happening, and wanted to kind of run through some of those things with you tonight. And then we'll see where we go from there. Next month, looking forward to having some more guests on with us, and we're going to schedule out some very interesting things next month. Got some people we've been talking to.
Interesting people.
So more to come on that. But for tonight, it's us, right?
It's us.
It's us.
You
it's
and
us
I.
and you.
Yes.
Us,
Okay.
her and you and I and them.
Yes.
Right? You, me, and them. We
Yes.
got that. Okay. So welcome to you. See some people coming online. Hello. Don't forget to say hello to us. Wave at us. You can either call in or you can always say hello or make a comment on the Facebook page. If you're on the church page, we can see it there. And if you're on one of our watch parties, you can also see it there. Or if you're doing a watch party, share.
Yes.
Share on and connect on to your friends. Share and tag, right?
Yes.
Had a lot of new people joining the church page. And so welcome to any of our new people that may be catching us tonight as well, perhaps for the first time. Glad to have you with us. I'm David Stewart, and this is my wife, Pamela Clark Stewart.
Yes.
And we're here
Stewart?
like every weekend.
Stewart?
Is it Stewart Clark? Clark Stewart. Clark Stewart.
Clark Stewart.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what it is, baby.
Yeah, me for a minute. So, we're here like every weekend. Like
yes, every Saturday.
Since March, we've been here every weekend.
Exactly.
You're starting to see it like everywhere on me. That we've been here every weekend. But we, just continue on because there's just so much to talk about, so much conversation to be had. The number is area code 951. I think it's on. It may not be pinned yet. Let me try and pin it. But the number should be on the page right now. If you're there, area code 951-799-9032 is the number. And I don't know where the page went. But anyway, feel free to call us at that number. Area code 951-799-9032. And we'd be happy to have you join the conversation. So what's happening this week? Anything going on?
Oh, come on.
What's on your mind?
There's a lot. There's always something going on.
When is there? Those years,
isn't
right?
Something going on? Yes.
It's like the news, 24-hour news stations that constantly have something else to do. We always have something to talk about. So where should we begin tonight? Why don't we talk about the ongoing election?
The
right?
ongoing
election. Keep going on and on. And what commercial was that? Ever Ready?
Ever Ready.
It's going on.
Well, I wish someone would take the battery out so it can stop.
It's going on and on and on.
Yes.
The battle still continues. Our current president still insists that he has not lost. Not only is it not over, he feels like he has won, and it's going to be proven. He just said that this week again, that he feels like this is continuing on. And so there's no concede. The problem is that there's no transition, right? There's no transition that's happening of power. And the real question is this a problem or isn't it? I mean, we think about it, today is the 21st. The inauguration should be on the 20th of January.
January.
So we're basically 2 months away.
2 months away. So this is what we have to deal with.
Right. For another.
For
well,
another 2 months.
For a while. Yeah.
Yes.
And probably
exactly.
after.
And after. I agree with that. Yes.
But, so the real question I said, is this a problem? I mean, really, how much interaction does there really need to be for transition? I mean, the bottom line is on a certain time and a certain date, everything is transitioning over, like it or
yes,
not.
it is.
Right.
Yes, it is.
But the election itself, there's a question about, they keep saying that if we had more interaction with their people, blah, 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 we might be able to have, a better opportunity, et cetera, so forth. Sorry, if you're on the phone line, didn't hear anything. I just don't have it on yet, but feel free to call back. And we see you when you come on. So we see if you're calling, you'll go on hold. We're watching you, and we'll get you involved eventually.
Yes.
So don't hesitate to come back online if you want to call in. You were on the right number. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
But the conversation, this week I have to say I'm a little scared who's going to call in. Because
why?
with some of the conversations that I've seen, we do these clips that we send out, and they go out all the way all across the country. And this week there have been some interesting comments on the clips.
Yes, you showed me.
I mean,
yes.
Interesting is to put it lightly. Just where people coming from.
The more people that we have, interacting, and more people that are listening and watching, you're going to get some different opinions.
I'm seeing now what some people go through.
Different thoughts.
So you never know who's watching and who will be on, who'll call in and what kind of response we get. But you know what? I used to do radio years ago.
Yes.
And we used to have people calling on the radio show.
Okay.
And on Sunday morning, you'd be surprised at the really, really strange people you get calling in
saying some really strange things.
Saying some really interesting and strange things. So so I've been through it before. But anyway, we'll see what happens. You can call in and we'll work with. We do have the volume control and we can turn you off. So be nice, be kind, and let's have a good conversation. But anyway, we were talking about the election that's going on that's ongoing right now. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 months. Is it really a problem? How much time do they really need for transition? I mean, I wouldn't know. But obviously there's some things that you want the people who are head of this department to connect up with the people who are the head of that department now, and make those kind of transitions happen. You want to be able to interact with the staff because everybody's not leaving, right? The Pentagon is not leaving. All these other groups aren't leaving. And so you do want to have some interaction to prepare. If not, worst case scenario, the day after, on the 21st, 2 months from today, they'll have a new boss. And, you'll go into that responsibility and get to know them and move forward.
New man in charge.
The concern that they have is that it's going to slow things down. The reality, I think, is that the government is big enough to where it's going to run. I mean, if Donald Trump were to walk away tomorrow and never be seen again, the government would still keep running.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yes. In anybody else. So is it a real problem right now? Perhaps not as much as it's being suggested that it is, because
not
it will
as much
work
as he wants it to be.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, he's the Trump organization is kind of snubbing their nose right now, and they're, however you want to describe it. But if they don't believe, they don't believe. But the reality is the elections get certified on December 8th. All the states are required to officially certify their counts by December 8th. Some of them have already done so. Some of them continue to do so. That's like 2 to 3 more weeks away from now.
Right.
Until then, technically, it's not over.
It's not.
So, there's a lot of procedures that are still going on. There's still court cases that are still going on. Mm-hmm. One group would make you think that these court cases are solid and they're going to win.
Right.
The other side would make you think these mean nothing and they're all losing.
Right.
Who knows?
Well, thus far, there has been nothing to substantiate any claim that Trump and the Republicans are making.
Well, that's the back and forth. I mean, the Democrats,
they haven't shown us anything.
Democrats say they haven't shown anything. The Republicans say we've got it. So 3 weeks. We'll see what happens.
3 weeks. Well, so far each state has said they have nothing.
Now here's the kicker. Speaking of states,
here's
the kicker this week, because the kicker this week is that the president has started inviting some of the leaders from some of the states where these votes have gone to the Democrats, but they have Republican leadership, Republican governor, Republican state senate, all that. Michigan, he invited the leaders from Michigan, flew them to Washington yesterday to come speak with him because obviously he's way behind in Michigan. And, they were holding up on certifying. And so they had so much pressure, they finally did. But he invited them all to the White House yesterday with the concept, from what we understand, of implying to them that they should, in essence, decertify what the electoral came up with. And they should count that as invalid and pick their own electorates, of course, electorates that would represent him.
Yes.
Right. So this now we're really, really ramping up to something that's like, whoa. Okay. I mean, now we're getting pretty heavy in terms of not just legality, but, this being a legitimate thing to even do. Now, there are parts in the Constitution that allow for certain aspects of this, but intended, you would think, for extreme cases and not intended to override what the people. I mean, the whole concept of our voting is that this is a republic and the people decide.
We, the people.
Right.
Yes.
So unless there is some absolute abstract reason why that the voting could not be considered to be legitimate or the will of the people, this is not something you would do, right? Not to mention all these people in power, if they do this, right? If they were to actually override the votes of the people would be coming after them.
Oh, definitely, as they should.
They would, they wouldn't have really good re-election campaigns going on. It would be very, very ugly. So they came in, they were like, no, we're not doing that. And they went back home. Like, no, we didn't hear any reason why we should do that. And apparently Pittsburgh or Philadelphia is the next ones on the line he's going to try and do this with. So he's getting down to some really, not only desperate, but some really sensitive things in terms of, representing our government appropriately. So this is where they are. But they got 3 more weeks.
3 more weeks of this.
Right. So going to do what they're going to do in terms of legalities and recounts and things like that. But it does seem like right at this point, the votes are what they are. Here's the kicker, the real interesting thing now, the tally right now in votes as it stands right now, almost 80 million votes for Joe Biden, almost 80 million, and about 74 million for Donald Trump. Yes. This has been an amazing election year. This is a record-breaking record. It's like 153 million votes that were cast, and compared to last year or 4 years ago, it's like 130 million.
Yes, I see.
And so 153 million votes is, I believe, the most ever. And there's like 327 million people in the United States. I don't know how many of those are kids and qualified to vote, et cetera, so forth. But that's a huge, huge amount of people that got out and said, you know what, we're voting this year on both sides.
Exactly.
Because the numbers on both sides went up dramatically.
Yes, they went up. Yes. And they're very high. And you know what? They're really kind of close.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Because this is considered to be a really, really, really big gap.
Yeah.
74 million to 70 to 80 million, that's 6 million votes. 5 to 6 million votes is considered to be a really big gap. But that's not unusual for these to be very close. It's just unusual for it to be so argued about once it's over.
That's the issue, right?
And so divided about who won. So, 130 to 150, that's like 23 million more people this year
that came out and voted. Exactly.
That is crazy.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's people that didn't vote, that have never voted.
They got out and voted. Didn't vote.
People that were not registered, they registered to vote this year. Yes. People that were independent actually chose a side.
Yep.
And didn't it go mostly to the Democratic Party?
From the independents, I believe so.
Yes,
I think that's the overall.
Yes,
they generally have the swing votes. The independents are what make the difference.
Yes.
So it's an amazing thing. This has been an amazing year in terms of the election and the electoral process. People have been involved. They've never been involved before. It's going to be interesting now to see what happens in Georgia, because this is kind of the last hurrah here of this voting season. We know that we have a Congress that is slightly Democratic. They lost a few votes. It appears we're going to have a Democratic president, right? And right now the numbers on the Senate are split. It's like 48 48 type of split between the Senate of 100 senators.
Mhm.
And you have two more races, both of them in Georgia, both runoffs that are taking place like January 5th, right? So it's split down the middle. You got two more people to go, and depending on where they go is going to decide who has control in the Senate. This is really, that part of it is really crazy, right?
It's dramatic.
And build up the
Yes.
drama, right? It's typically been a Republican state,
Right.
except that this year for Joe Biden, the Democrats won for the first time in decades.
In decades, exactly.
And now you have two Republican senators they both have been Republican,
Mhm.
and two Democrats coming after them in a state that just flipped from the presidency to Democrats for the first time in decades. And the people are charged up. They are charged up. So, once things settle down on what's happening here with the presidency,
Mhm.
Georgia is going to be the place to watch. People are going to be all over what's happening in Georgia over the next couple of months. Because in December, by January 5th, after New Year's, people are going to be going crazy down in the state of Georgia.
Yes.
Trying to pull people, get people to vote, get people ready, registered, whatever, get them out, whatever you got to do, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there, because it is going to determine what happens in the Senate. We could have all Democratic Senate, House and President, or not. It all is going to depend on this. And so we'll see what happens. So once again, call us if you have anything to talk about. And we're talking right now about politics. We're going to talk about a couple other things, talk about COVID as well.
Yes.
And more Trump stuff to talk about too. but if you have something other than that you want to talk to us about, how's the weather where you are? Anything interesting? Other than that you like to talk about, we'd like to hear about that as well. And talk to you about that. Or if you have comments about any of these things that are taking place, the number is area code 951-799-9032. So some other additional interesting things that have been happening, right? So Donald Trump now, as he has been, whether he says it or not, he's beginning to act like he's leaving office because he's starting to do some things. Well, I think honestly, and here's one of the questions, is he really doing things now just because he would have done them, or is he doing them because he's really trying to set himself up for his next election run for 2024 and say, look at all the stuff that I did? Because he's still piling a lot of stuff on here in the last couple of weeks, and probably for the next couple of months here. One of the big announcements that just happened earlier this week was they announced a troop drawdown that's going to be taking place in Afghanistan and Iran. And this is serious. It's scheduled for January 15th.
Just before.
Okay, so now the inauguration is on the 20th.
God, just before the inauguration.
And he's scheduling bring out thousands of troops down on January. I see Eddie's talking to us. He's scheduled to do this on the 15th, the week before the inauguration. Now, I don't know if that's coincidental planning or not, but of course it is. But, he's doing this just before he, in essence, leaves office. And so there's a lot of concern about what kind of destabilization that's going to leave in terms of those areas, dropping them down, the United States moving out of those areas. A lot of concern on the Republican and Democrat side about what that means. In addition to that, he just made a big announcement just yesterday about some things that he's doing to try and curb drug prices for people. Now, this may not be a bad thing, right? But there's two rules that he just announced next week. Not sure. These are executive orders, so whether they'll stay or not, we'll see. But one of them is called the most favored nation rule. And that one is basically saying that Medicare, and try to explain these things for people who hear about these things and don't really understand what they're saying. But from a Medicare standpoint, Medicare right now pays a certain amount for drugs used in the doctor's office. Right. And you can do this for Medicare because the government controls directly Medicare versus trying to control what other insurance companies are doing. He's saying that that Medicare now is going to only reimburse for the use of those medications what would be paid on an equal basis in other countries. In other words, if you're getting a medication for, let's say for pain, a pain drug that they're using in a doctor's office or prescribing in a doctor's office to you, and Medicare would generally subsidize that and pay X amount for it. They may be charging Medicare $500 a pill for this stuff here, whereas in Europe, it may only cost $75 a pill.
Right.
And so now they're saying that Medicare will only pay $75, up to $75 towards that pill. And so it's reducing the price. That's what's called most favored nation. When they have when you have something like that, it's supposed to mean that you get the best price available to any other group. And we use those clauses in business clauses sometimes, one of the most favored nation clause, which means that if anybody else comes in and you're going to sell to them, you have to sell to them at a price comparative to me. My price has to be better or equal to what you're giving them, because I'm the most favored nation. And so it's a rule. It's called that, and that's what the intention of the rule is. Now, what the repercussions are going to be on that remains to be seen. How they work around that remains to be seen. A lot of people are concerned that then doctors won't use certain medications because it's just going to cost them too much to do that if the Medicare is going to underpay for those medications, et cetera, so forth. The second is curbing of rebates paid to middlemen. So in the supply chain of medications coming through, a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer, or whatever the case may be, has people in the channel that work out and arrange and manage their medicines. And those people sometimes work by a premium. The more expensive the medication they're selling, the more money they get. So guess what they do? True. They sell the more expensive ones, right?
Yes.
And so what he's saying is, can't do that no more. You have to charge a flat rate, and all those extra cuts that would have gone to them need to go now directly to the consumer as a discount. So that could be a good thing, right? All of it's all about the details of how these things work out to see whether it really is beneficial or not. So he's got these things that now he seems to be pushing through, and I expect there'll be more. And so the question is this a good thing, or is this a setup? Is this him really establishing his legacy to say, look, here's more of the accomplishments that I've done, or is this setting up problems for Joe Biden to walk into to say, okay, now I got to handle the craziness that he just started.
Because he just started.
Right.
Yes.
So he comes into office a week after the troops get dropped down in these foreign countries, right? And I assume he wants to do that because part of his legacy and part of what he has said is, I want to pull American soldiers back, America first, come back to the United States. But at the same time, we saw this in the past where they pull out soldiers of different areas, and then all of a sudden you get groups like Al Qaeda that come rushing in, right? And now you have a huge problem.
Yes.
So what do you think? I mean, is this him building his legacy, or is this him setting up Joe Biden for problems? So he can say, I told you so.
Well,
what do you guys think? What do you think? Love to hear from you.
Considering, who he is, anything could happen.
It could be either or both, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, he could be saying, I want to continue to establish my legacy because guess what? 4 years from now, I'm coming back and I'm going to say, look, see, I was doing this for you. I did this for you. I did this for you. Let me keep doing that again and compare that to what Joe Biden does over the next 4 years. Or he may be just setting them up to have more problems. So he can say, see, look at the mess he made.
Yes.
Right. So time will tell what the impact of these things are going to be as well. You never know, right?
No, you never know. Now, I think either way, Trump will be hearing from him for quite some time.
I don't think Trump is going away
He's not going away.
He seems to be very anxious to.
It is not in his nature.
If he doesn't win, he seems like he's still planning on being around for a while.
Exactly. So we will hear
here's
his voice.
The thing. So now here's an interesting thing, and talk about, how committed. I mean, I have to say this. He has had this intense work ethic while he has been in office. I mean, he has worked a lot, and he's kind of a non-sleeper. So day and night. Some people say he doesn't work a lot, but he's this is a man like doesn't sleep. He's up and at it. He's tweeting.
He's up and he's conspiring.
Day and night. It's crazy. How can you possibly be tweeting in the middle of the night all night long and then running around like a president all day? But lately, he seems to have fallen off a little bit. So they had the G20 meeting this week, and the G20 is the 20 most powerful nations in the world come together. I think it's once a year, and have all these conversations.
Yes.
And while the G20 was going on, it was virtual this year because of the fact that, COVID.
COVID, yes.
And in the middle of it, they had a meeting to discuss the pandemic. And where was Donald Trump during the meeting?
Playing.
For some reason, he didn't want to talk about pandemic. So
No.
he was on for the other parts of the G20, and they had this pandemic, how we're going to handle that meeting. And he decided, nah, I think I'll go golfing instead.
I think I'll pass.
So,
I think I'll go hit a golf ball.
This is a scary thing, right? Because, instead of it's like he's focused all his attention on the vaccines. But in the meantime, what are we doing about the virus right now? As he said in one quote, it is what it is. He seems to be saying, just let it play out. And in the meantime, I don't want to talk about that. I'm going to go golfing.
I guess he would not want to talk about it.
Yeah. It's, that's one of the things that kind of scares me a little bit,
based on how he's dealt with the pandemic.
You would think, though, that this would be a chief concern, and either him, maybe he sent Mike Pence. I don't know. Maybe he sent, but I'm sure a lot of people observed the fact, he's not here. Wonder why he didn't want to talk about this with us. So a lot did come out this week about the vaccines, and that is an amazing story that's taken place. The vaccine story that's going on in terms of the ongoing efforts to reduce COVID and through this vaccine, the vaccine process is pretty amazing. Eddie said, go play golf. he's a firm believer that he's making more problems for Biden.
Yeah.
Which could be. We'll see.
Well,
but
it would be like him
not
to
be
do
out of character.
Exactly. Would not.
But the work that's been going on is pretty amazing. When you look at it again from a neutral basis, these companies have done an amazing thing. Now, a lot of what's been said as the reasons to why this has happened so relatively fast, because remember, for most vaccines, it's 2 to 5 years to produce a vaccine.
Exactly.
Right. And they've done it in less than a year. There is a basis for these vaccines that have been created, the most recent ones by Pfizer and the second company, which is the backbone of a process that actually initiated during the Obama era.
Right.
And so this was really, and it was part of what was going on with Ebola and things like those when they were working on those diseases. And this is kind of the first time to really try it out. And it looks like it's been very successful. What they're saying right now is 95% effective. Most vaccines are like 50% effective. So 95% effective means that just about everybody that takes it is vaccinated and doesn't have to worry about catching this. I am curious to find out how long the vaccine will last for, because they're saying in your regular immunity right now, some people, after they have the virus, just like a cold or flu, you're immune for a while. You can't get it right away. And they're saying that's only like 2 or 3 months. So I'm curious to see how long the vaccines, this is not necessarily forever. You may have to take a booster shot or something like that later. But it is
like
amazing. The flu vaccine. But it is amazing that it's been effective as it so seems to be. Side effects, not a whole lot reported. Longer term, bigger term, when you get in the full population, we'll see. But it definitely seems like it's something that's heading in the right direction. In the meantime, there is still we are in the midst of a huge, and this is why we're talking about the concern right now for what's happening, because we are again in a huge resurgence of the virus. One of the biggest issues right now is that it is now across the entire country, whereas before it was in sections of the country. We started talking about this last week, remember?
Yes, we did.
Just an example, one of the things we said last week was 2 weeks ago, like on the 4th, right? Is that 2 weeks or 3 weeks? We were just crossing 100,000 cases a day. That's on the 4th of November. We're sitting now on the 20th, and we're up to 186,000 cases, 187, 88,000 cases. It's almost doubled in 2 weeks. So That's the number of cases per day, mind
Per
you.
day. Yeah.
You know, so the caseloads of coronavirus are increasing rapidly. And I keep talking to people about, you know, they're still kind of downplaying how serious this is and not everybody dies.
Hmm.
You need to understand, true, not everybody dies, but understand right now we will be in the next month or so over 300,000 people who have died. Just to put that, just want to put that in perspective for you. 300,000 people that have died. We're heading close to 320. There's 327 million people in the United States.
Right.
So when we get to 327,000 people, that'll be 1,000th or 0.1% of the population of the country that has died within the past year. And again, people say it's only 0.1. I mean, it's like people were saying, "Oh, it's not half of us,"
Yeah,
right? But again, understand that's like 4 to 5 times as many people as die of flu every year.
Exactly.
So people keep saying it's just a flu. That's like 4, and hasn't even been a year, and it hasn't even been like this a full year. It's just started to ramp up to get to this rate.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 to 5 times as many people have died of this in almost like last 3 to 4 months versus how many people die of flu and pneumonia in a year.
Mm-hmm.
This makes it at 300,000. It makes it the third highest cause of death in the United States.
Yes.
So when people say it's minor, it's only a few people, you have to understand how rapidly this is happening, how rapidly it's growing, and put it in its true perspective. This is truly a killing virus.
It is.
And the problem is you don't want it to kill you, right? It's easy to
you
say,
and your loved ones.
Yeah, you know, there's people out there dying, but you know, it's only a few. But you don't want it to be your family.
No.
You know, we were talking.
No one that you're affiliated or associated with.
There was a story out the other week, I think last week, of a woman who lost like 6 members of her family.
Yes.
To the virus.
Yes.
I mean, it might be, you know, kind of coincidental, and everybody doesn't lose that many, but one person lost 6 people right around in her immediate family.
Yes. You know, and also there are children losing both parents. I was reading something about that today. You know, it's they're losing both parents.
Right. So it might not be your mother, your father, your parents, but there are people out, and it could be your parents. And this is a real concern. I mean, this is the concern about Thanksgiving, for one thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, people are getting ready to celebrate. And, you know, there's been a real harshness for people, stubbornness in terms of not wanting to do what they not wanting to change their habits.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, it's a tradition. It's a tradition for families to get together during Thanksgiving.
But not only that,
I mean, they've got to change that.
The whole year. I mean, people were like, no, I usually go on vacation.
Exactly.
I usually go to the beach. I want to do this. I mean, we didn't say, I want to go. I want to do the same thing.
We say the same thing.
I want to go to
Look at all the places that we have not been able to go to.
And just
we're using our better judgment by not going.
Right. I want to go. I mean, even simpler stuff. I want to go to the movies. I want to go to the mall. I want to go out and eat. You know, we are unfortunately very spoiled. You know, and just not well equipped to deal with this as a country because we're realistically spoiled.
Yes.
And so it's hard for us to say, okay, well, it's hard for us to accept that people can tell us what to do and what not to do.
Right.
Part of it is just the way our country is established, because we believe in freedoms and independence, and people are blowing it so much out of proportion about you're taking my freedoms away and things like that. You know, we're trying to help you live.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, we're trying to help people to live. And so they blow it out. They say this is way blown out of proportion. It's not that bad. So many people, 5 times more people than the flu. You're not just talking about the flu. And people are asking these really extreme things like wear a mask. That's really scary. Wear a mask. And no, I have a right not to do it. All this ranting and raving about why masks is taking away from my freedom. It's absolutely
will take away your life by not wearing.
The trade-off seems to be to not even be compared.
Right.
But you know, this is kind of where people have been drawn to in a mindset, and it's scary when you think about the reality of these numbers and what's happening. Again, this is from what I looked at, studied last week. The the third largest killer of people in the United States today. That's behind like heart disease and one other one, you know, and this is by far, those three are by far ahead of everything else.
Right.
Suicides, like I said, flus, all these other things are that's even more than cancer. I mean,
Yeah,
cancer's
I was
actually
going
gone
to
down.
mention.
These three are like at the top of the list.
Mhm.
And so, you know, it is definitely something serious and to be considered seriously. Now,
Mhm.
hopefully these vaccines come on, and it's going to take time. And, you know, they're trying to warn people because, you know, and it was another Donald Trumpian thing that he kind of
Trumpian.
threw something out at
Mhm.
Pfizer saying that they waited until after the elections to announce that they had this virus. Like they were so focused on just
Wait,
nailing him that instead of, they said they were supposed to announce in October and they
That-
waited to announce in November. I'm pretty much sure. I don't know. But I don't think that was their primary issue of trying to wait till after elections just to mess him over. But that's the way he jabbed at them in his public press conference.
Mhm.
I'm not too surprised they didn't say anything back. They haven't responded, but I'm sure they still don't want to mess anything up with him. They want to make sure that this gets going.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
you know, Pfizer and the other company, I can't remember the name, which one the second one is, have theirs ready to go. They're going to the FDA in a couple of weeks, and hopefully they're going to start
Mhm.
getting this out and available over the next couple of weeks. And the idea is that they're going to make it available to those who are in greater need. And so here's the other question we were talking about the other day about, you know, the greater needs people. You know, there's a battle as to, you know, where they're going to go to. They're going to go to aged people. They're going to go to people in hospitals and the medical workers and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
And, you know, there's a debate on both sides of whether they're going to go make it into the poor, more rural areas
Yes.
or not, right? And in some cases, they're saying, well, they're not going to make it there immediately because they're going through all these hospital channels. And so if you're not in a place where you have all these primary hospitals, then you may have problems getting to the virus. And then, which means, for example, really concentrated areas of African Americans and things like that
Mhm.
are, you know, rural areas in the South
Right.
could be very delayed. And they're saying these are the people that need it the most because they're the most susceptible to dying.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, you know, Joe Biden comes in and he's going to say, you know what, we want to get this stuff out to the poor people, to the Black people as soon as possible. And then the Black people look at him and say, wait a minute, why are you giving us this stuff first?
Why are you giving it to exactly based on
wait a
history?
minute. You want to give us
Black
a shot
people
of stuff you just made up in the
being
lab?
wait a minute, they're like, oh, where Black people are going to be the first,
right?
you know, based on history
Right?
and experience with shots and medication.
Right? Yeah, let's give
it doesn't turn out
let's give
too
it
good.
to the poor African American Latinos, all
You
those
know,
poor dark skinned
yes,
people.
exactly.
They need it so bad. Wait a minute, why are you being so nice to us?
Exactly. What kind
To
of
what do we owe you this favor?
experimentation is going on here?
Sounding
you know?
kind of like, you know, experimental rats. But,
Exactly.
so the debate's gonna be on. So what are you going to take the shot?
Are you going to be the first to take the shot?
Who's taking the shot? Who's volunteering to take the shot? So it's going to be a real challenge here because not only are you going to have this stuff available, you have to get it out in the communities, and then you have to convince people to take it.
Right.
I can see it now. I'm not taking it. You taking it?
Taking it? You take it first.
You take it.
Yes.
Give it to Johnny. Let Johnny take it first. See what happened to Johnny, and then we'll talk. Right. As for me, I'm just thinking the safest
just gonna
thing.
Sit back and wait.
I think safest thing for me is just stay away from.
I'm just gonna stay with you. Exactly. Let's just live in a little bubble.
We'll just stay in the bubble.
You and I.
Keep working
we'll
here.
Let Mom stay.
Y'all let us know how it goes, and then after a couple of months, okay, then we'll go.
Yeah.
The one thing I do think we should do, and I think everybody should do, is I think before traveling, I would probably take it. Right before I think before get on planes to start traveling nationally, internationally, and stuff like that, you should probably take it. I really do.
I am just not ready to get on an airplane as much as I like to travel.
Eddie said, "No, give those shots to someone else.
Give shots to exactly. I am not.
Come on, Eddie, you got to come on, take your shot now. We're gonna call you.
Family and friends, I love you and I miss you all. I really, really do. However, you know, I think I'll just sit back and wait a while.
I think so. I hope most of you do too. I think we'll wait before we travel.
Yes.
But when we do travel, I think it'll probably be time to take the shot. You know,
Mhm.
so if I mean, we may be talking second half of next year
Oh my God,
sometime.
no.
It means you got to stay here. But you know, we'll probably wait.
Mhm.
Just speaking for me, because I honestly, you know, even as a scientist, I'm always careful about these first rounds, right?
Mhm.
Because things go wrong and
Yes.
there's so many things you don't
Oh
know.
my goodness.
That's why they
Yes.
try to gradually, you know, expand these things out
Mhm.
and learn. But there's so many things you don't know. There are things that can happen. And I don't mean to
Yes.
negate people from taking the virus shots because we
Mhm.
really do. It looks like it's been very successful and it's very much needed because of all this death rate that's happening. But
Right.
this really is a personal decision.
Well, also something could happen later on.
Mhm.
It could happen to the
That's what I'm
next
saying. It could
generation.
happen over decades. It could
It
happen.
really could,
You
because there
think
have been
about.
situations where that has happened.
Mhm,
Someone takes a shot.
mhm.
They later on, years later, they become pregnant and the child is affected.
There's a lot of things you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and
Exactly.
wherein
Until
lies the
you know
problem.
it.
Right.
Right.
You know, I remember, you know, when I was coming up in the 80s, I hate to say that, but I was a young man in the 80s
Hmm.
working,
Hmm.
but just starting to work
Hmm.
in working in chemistry and in science. There were so many things that weren't known, especially around cancer causing things,
Yes.
carcinogens.
Hmm.
And we worked in the
Oh.
labs with things that you cannot get near now.
Hmm.
But we worked with chloroforms and carbon tetrachlorides and all
Hmm.
these things which are now considered to be, you know, cancer causing. We worked
Right.
with them in the labs.
Hmm.
And fortunately, by the time I came in, you know, you did have you have protection on, but even asbestos,
Hmm.
people still now
Right.
are
Exactly.
suffering from the impacts of things that did not know or understand
Hmm.
about asbestos. And so you don't know what you don't know, and you try and be
Yes.
careful, but sometimes the only way you learn is when it's at scale and over the course of time.
Hmm.
So, you know, there is a personal decision here. My personal decision at this point is just stay away from everybody, continue to wear masks. I've been wearing a mask for a while, you know, because I mean, hey, I think a good mask, especially with filters, et cetera, and layers, is the right way to go. These 95 masks, et cetera, and more is a very simple and safe way to help
Hmm.
stay safe. That and
Yes.
hand sanitizer are my friends,
Exactly.
right? And
It's
now hand
Lysol
sanitizer is
and
available.
yes.
So that and hand I think those two go a long way to
Yes.
helping you to stay safe. That and just
Exactly.
staying away from everybody. So,
Exactly.
you know, my boss says he's staying in his house till June.
Supervisor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So he's not going anywhere. So he says, look, he says he wants us to take the shots. You two take the shots.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Don't you want to see us again?
We're taking Eddie to the line first.
Yeah, no, Eddie.
And then
Not
we'll
happening,
take two
Eddie.
steps back and we'll see how it goes. That's what we'll see what happens. But you know, I mean, so there's a lot of personal decisions to be made, and that's kind of the point that we're trying to make,
Mhm.
is that over the course of time, this vaccine is going to become available. I expect that most people in medical profession will gladly take it because it's much probably safer for them to be vaccinated than it is to be working in these environments.
Yeah.
And so I suspect that majority of them will take it rapidly. The other thing, by the way, that they say
Mhm.
is that to truly have a full vaccination of, you know, in a broader perspective, you need to have at least 75% of the community to get
Mhm.
vaccinated, 75% to get vaccinated. Now, they say that for flu shots, typically every year, they only get up a little under 50%. So to
Hmm.
get up to 75%, that means 3 out of 4 people
Right.
to take this shot is going to be a real steep hill to climb. And so
Hmm.
for people who are anticipating this is it, this
Mhm.
is all going to be fixed, all going to go away.
Mhm.
I want you to understand this is the stuff you're still dealing with. You probably have till April, May, June to have it publicly available to just about everybody. And
Mhm.
then people have to be willing to take it,
Mhm.
you know, and then you have to have a majority of enough in your region, in your area. And not only there, you know, anytime you go somewhere else, you're still going to be at risk. So if you
Mhm.
don't take it, everybody else around in your city takes it. Great. You go out of the city, don't tell them where you're going to go. You go outside the city, in the
Mhm.
suburbs, don't tell
Mhm.
them where you're going to go. So
Right.
you go, you know, from Greece to Webster, or from Rochester into another, You don't know what that community is going to be like, and you're just
Right.
assuming everybody's now safe,
Right.
but you're still
Mhm.
interacting. So there's
Mhm.
going to be problems. You leave this, go to the state, you go to another country.
Mhm.
You don't know if they have the vaccine the same way we do. So if you're not vaccinated, you're still at high risk as you go
Yes.
in and out of different populations.
Mhm.
So this will be a very serious issue that will continue on for some time.
Mhm.
And people are going to have to be very conscious, careful, not just through the first half of the year, but for an extended period of time to come.
Yes.
Not to mention migration. So I don't want to get into all that, but there's just all kind of issues here that are associated with what's coming up and what may be coming up. So lots continues to happen in the meantime, right? Because now we're experiencing these yellow and orange and red zones. I think we've only had yellow and orange.
Yes. Mhm.
For those in our area that aren't aware of it, we are in a yellow zone here in
Right.
Rochester now, which means that our rates are up above 2.5%.
Mhm.
Buffalo is in an orange zone now.
Are they?
So
Oh,
they're now
wow.
orange, which means they're up above 3, heading towards 4, and actually over 4%.
Mhm.
And then other parts of this state are defined that way as well. And then you've got places in other parts of the country which are in like mega fluorescent black zones, I guess. They're just like off the charts.
Wow.
We were looking at Alabama the other day, 13%.
Yes.
So some of the states are just,
It's
see the rates just
it's
everywhere.
soaring. Yeah. Yeah.
So here in this state now, the question of closing of schools and churches, because some of
Right.
these zones now start indicating that they want to start shutting down schools, shutting down churches, and there's a lot of debate because they're saying those are going closed, but bars and restaurants are still open.
Right.
And
Well,
other
New York
places,
City schools, they closed.
New York City schools closed,
Yes.
and they're really complaining because they're saying that the rates in the schools are actually lower than the rates in the community. So they're saying the schools are safer right now in the communities. Why are you taking them out of schools?
Well, you know what? They're doing a lot of contact tracing.
Mhm.
If someone does, show up with COVID, they're actually tracing. They're making sure that students, staff, and everyone wears masks.
Right.
There are less students in the schools right now as well. There's
Right.
less students and there's probably less staff
Mhm.
because we're able to teach virtually.
But why send the kids home if the rates in the schools are lower than the rates in the community? Does that really make sense to do that?
Why send them home?
Yeah.
Well, first, are less students
Yeah.
that
So
are
why
in school.
So why send them home? Because if the rates are lower in the schools than they are in the community.
Okay, but if you have more students,
Yeah.
more people
Right.
in the school,
Mhm.
then you're more likely
It could get worse.
it could get worse.
But nobody's saying open them all the way up. It's
Mhm.
saying continue to do what you're doing, right?
Right?
If what you're doing is keeping the rates lower than in your community, why are you shutting it down?
Why are you shutting it down?
Right. Yeah. It's like, why are you taking a preventative action against something that's actually doing better than you are everywhere else? So that's the debate that's out there, which I think is a reasonable debate.
Well,
that
I
people are
still
saying.
think it's reasonable, but I still think when you have less people
Mhm.
in a building or
Mhm.
less people around,
Right.
that you are less likely to be exposed to coronavirus or to any other illness.
True.
So, but
The more sparse, the less density.
exactly. So there's less people,
Right.
less probability.
Yeah. So
Where if you have more students and more staff,
right.
that's more people, that's more germs,
Mhm.
and it's more to be concerned about.
Right.
In that case, you will probably close the schools
Mhm.
eventually
Mhm.
because there's more people.
Yeah.
I think with there being less people, you're less exposed.
Right. So now they're sending the kids home
Mhm.
to an area where there's actually more virus, right? And this is
Sending them home, you're saying more virus in the community.
than there is in the school, right? So they're sending them back home to an area that has even more virus than the schools does at this point, right? And that's not an uncommon thing because we were seeing the same thing here in Rochester, that the numbers that they've been finding on virus are extremely low. I mean, it counts like on your hand in a school district versus what they're seeing in the community. So it's a real debate as to whether they should send them home or not, or focus on it. Where is the virus spreading is the question. And the statement that's being made there is the assumption is it's not spreading through the schools because the rates in the schools are lower. But you have other areas where people are interacting, like bars, like restaurants. And their concern is that those areas probably should be targeted faster than the schools should be targeted.
Well, maybe they should be doing some things that the schools are doing, because they have temperature check.
Yeah.
They check those kids check them at the door.
Mhm.
If they have a fever, they go home.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are the bars doing that?
No.
Exactly. Thank you.
No.
My point.
But
Yes.
that's why people are concerned. They're
Right.
thinking this is
Right.
you're being unfair, you're being inconsistent, and you're hurting the economy. So that's the argument that's there. Why don't you deal with, you don't want to close these areas because of the economic issues, but you're willing to take the kids and send them home and they have their own economic issues. So there's this back and forth that's going on right now, and it comes down to who is making these decisions, who is deciding this, and on what basis, because what's being implied is that they're being inconsistent.
Well, it is very inconsistent. I think everyone needs to be on the same page
Mhm.
in order to attack this virus.
Right.
You can't have half of the people doing one thing,
Right.
and then a quarter over here doing another thing, and then you just can't have that.
Right.
Half here, half there doing something different.
Mhm.
We have to be on the same page in order to attack the virus.
Now, and here's another.
Because if we're doing different things,
Mhm.
we're still not being effective.
Right. Now, here's another suspicious thing that's out there. And, I won't start no rumors and y'all can look up the numbers yourselves,
Mhm.
right? In the state, if you look at the counts that are happening in the state,
Mhm.
the net numbers are going up, but the percent rates are going down, which doesn't make any sense, right? So we just had, I didn't see the counts today, but yesterday we had a record number of cases per day in the Rochester area, in Monroe County, record number of cases.
Mhm.
But our actual positivity rate is actually going down. And people are like, that doesn't make any sense. How is that happening? Now they're testing a ton more people.
Mhm.
But one of the questions is, where are they getting these tests from? Because one of the suggestions is that they're pulling in the numbers from the schools where there's no virus. And as a result of that, they're making the total numbers go up. And so even though the number of positive cases in the county are higher, the numbers look lower because they're adding and piling all these other negative tests from wherever they're getting them from. So if you look at the chart, it looks like the 7-day rate was going up a week or so ago, and all of a sudden it turned and started going down. People are like, well, what's happening? Right? So the suggestion is that people are manipulating the numbers. Ooh, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just here.
There's a lot of manipulation.
That same thing, that same phenomena seems to be showing up in other areas of the state as well. And by the way, the county numbers and the state numbers never match. They haven't the whole time. We've been looking at this the whole time. The county numbers are way higher than the state numbers. Both here and in Buffalo. I looked at the Buffalo numbers, the same thing. The Buffalo right now is saying that their COVID rate was around 7.6, while the county shows them at closer to 5.0. Okay, Rochester, same thing. So all these, who's manipulating these numbers and why, and who's making all these decisions? So we got all kind of stuff to question about what's going on. So my long and short to that, people, keep your masks and stay away from people.
I have plenty
Trust
of masks.
nothing.
If anybody wants masks, I got them.
Trust nothing. Keep yourself safe.
Yes.
Because who knows what's happening around us. People are doing what is in their agenda to do, but you gotta stay safe, and you have to be the first owner of that yourself. Right. So keep yourself safe. Churches are making a lot of pleas right now because the rules that are being set up for churches closing don't seem to make sense. They go, from yellow to orange to red. You go from, okay, you can be at 50% capacity to having 25 people in your church to having 10 people in your church.
Yeah.
Now, for us in a small church, that doesn't matter as much, right?
Mhm.
But if you have a church of 1,000 people and you go in the first level to 50% capacity of 500 people, but
Mhm.
then you go to the next level and they say you can only have 25 people. So
Yeah,
you go from
right.
500 people to 25 and then to 10. I mean, come on, that's, and they have a scale of a building that can handle that.
Mhm.
So having 25 people in a building with a capacity of 1,000
1,000
people
people.
is a lot different from 25 people in a building that holds 100 people.
Right.
So there have been a lot of discussions we've been posing through different channels. It should be at a minimum a percentage basis, not a base number
Yes.
basis. And so people are trying to work and function with these things, but some of the things are really being challenged and some of the things probably need to be challenged. In our church, we're doing everything we can to keep people
Yes.
safe,
Exactly.
including, we just bought a new thermometer system that goes on the wall.
Mhm.
So people can come in and check their temperatures as they come in.
Mhm.
Entrance one way, exit another, working on that. New sanitizer, fogger sanitizer
Yes. Keep
to
the
fog
fogger.
off different areas
Yes.
with hypochlorous acid, which
Mhm.
is not toxic, but it will kill any viruses. All kind of other things are going on, masks,
Yes.
hand sanitizer, et cetera, so forth.
Yes.
Churches are trying and doing all they can
Yes. Yes. We have
to
a
keep
cleaning
things
team.
safe while still enabling people to have that opportunity to come
Right.
together and have some aspect of fellowship.
Mhm.
But we do need to be careful, and I do want to, as we get ready to close, I want to talk about Thanksgiving, because one of my greatest fears is that Thanksgiving is going to stir up the virus like it hasn't been stirred up in a while. It's already, from what we saw in the charts, stirred up hot. And when you think about people Thanksgiving is one of the biggest times for travel,
Yes.
where families get together from near and from far.
Mhm.
And I just want to say to people, you have to be very conscious and careful of who you're interacting with, because
Right.
the main spread of the virus right now is happening from inner circles,
Yes.
from people who feel comfortable around each other
Right.
in comfortable environments, and they think they're okay with that.
Mhm.
But what you don't realize is your friend has other friends that they
Exactly.
connect up with other than your circle, and their friends have other friends.
Mhm.
And what's happening is my friend is finding out that their friend
Yes.
tested positive, and oh, by the way, I was just with them last week,
Yes.
and oh, by the way, I was just with you this
Right.
week. That's the way it's spreading a lot right now, especially among young people. They had just announced this week again in Syracuse, SU.
Yes. Yes.
They sent them home for their Thanksgiving break.
Mhm.
Many of them got tested before they left for home.
Yes.
2 of them came forward and were on the news saying that they were about to go home. They got tested and found out before they went home that they had tested positive for the virus.
Yes.
So they were on their way home, your children on their way home to see you, wrap them in your loving arms, take them in, and they could have the virus because they've been in
Yes, infect the
communities
whole
where the
household.
viruses have been.
Exactly.
And so you don't know that they're sick until after they begin to show symptoms, and by then they've already exposed you.
Yes.
And so these are the dangers, because people are crossing state lines,
Right.
and now your child may feel fine, didn't even know they had it, but when they get next to your mom and your dad, their grandparents, that's where the tremendous amount of risk comes in. When they get
Yes.
around you, when they get around your parents. So it's not even just about the kids, and I know you love them, we all love them to death, right? But we have to be so conscious and careful
Yes.
about interacting and transitioning across these different circles, because Thanksgiving could be an absolute disaster
It could be.
to your family, to our families, to the country. We're actually encouraging people, after, when you come back, if you're going back, if you're going to be in a different circle, get tested when you come back. A lot of people feel like testing is only for if you think you're sick. But testing is actually to check and see what's going on.
Right.
So we encourage people, if you go away for Thanksgiving, if you have other people in your homes for Thanksgiving, get tested twice. Get tested once and then get tested 4 days later, just to make sure. Testing is free to you right now. You can get tested, okay? So go and get tested so that you are not the one helping to spread it to somebody else.
Right.
This, again, could be a very, very disastrous week. Not this week, but 2 weeks from now.
Right.
We get into mid-December, we may see these spiraling numbers skyrocket even further, and none of us want to see that. we don't want to make coronavirus the number one killer in the country. And we could do that if we're not conscious. So just give you this word of encouragement. Please be careful. Please be mindful.
Yes.
Don't just assume because it's your loved one that everything is okay, because it can easily spread and it could happen to you. We don't want to hear about you being lost to this virus or being deathly sick, et cetera, so forth. Parts of our family have lost a lot of family members down south because of this virus. This is a serious thing. You don't want to be there. So, all right, I think it's about time to go. Hopefully we said enough and you had said enough. Thank you guys. Thank you, Eddie. And those who are participating. Eddie was like waiting for this show. So he could comment to us. Thanks to all those who were on. Saw some thumbs and some smiles from everybody. Pastor Taylor says, sign me up for a shot. Where that? Please.
Yeah, we got Pastor Puriel. He's on. Yes, nice to have you on.
To
and
you, sir.
Troy and Lady Dobbs, nice to have you on.
So hopefully some fun stuff, some interesting stuff, a little insight, a little fun. And to the caller that came and went, I guess they decided they chickened out. They jumped on, they jumped back off. We'd love to have you contact us and connect up and be part of the conversation. Coming up next month, we're going to go back in some more guests. We wanted to take a little time off from that and do some scheduling and planning for December and January. But hopefully you'll be with us and we'll continue to have a good time. So we'll be back next week. Don't forget tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. Once again, I want to say, as I did at the beginning, to any of our new watchers, some people that have come on the site, if you see this and you've connected up, hopefully it's been enjoyable to you. We'd love to hear a comment from you, say hello, wave, anything, just having some real conversation and try to keep it as neutral as we can and as close to the facts as we can. So hopefully you've enjoyed this and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. for our live stream, word and worship service. I'm going to talk to you about bearing pain tomorrow. So I know a lot of us have a lot of pains we bear in this time. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. I want to be a blessing to you with that as well. 11:30 tomorrow. Back next week. Wednesday night is our series on end time prophecy, 7 p.m. You'll enjoy that if you come and join us for that. And more and more and more and more. All right.
Yes.
So we'll see you during the week. Have a great Thanksgiving. We don't talk to you before then. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless you. Time for us to wind away and move on to some other stuff. So yes. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next time. We out of here. Peace out. Blessings.